guys, it's Mo. Welcome back to Reading with Mo, and today we're going to be talking about the worst / most disappointing books that I read last year in the year 2020. I have picked my top 10 worst / disappointing books to share with you guys, and I don't do it to be like negative or anything. Like, obviously some of these books you guys probably have loved, and there's people, each of these books there's people who love them, but for one reason or another, they just did not work for me. So I'm going to be sharing those with you guys today, and maybe if we have similar reading tastes, this will help you decide whether you want to read some of these books in the future or not. So last year, I didn't really read too many or write down all the books that I just like DNF'd because I didn't want to finish. So that's not really what the majority of this list is going to be. It's going to be mainly books that I gave either 1 or 2 stars to, which I think wasn't even a lot in general. I want to say maybe around 20-ish books I read last year fell within that range. And like I said, I didn't really keep track of the DNFs, which I will try to do a better job of this year. But let's just get straight into them. These aren't going to be in any particular order. They're just going to be in the order that I wrote them down in. So the first one, and also I don't have the physical copies of these that I even did own physical copies of, because if I don't like a book after I read it, I will get rid of it. There's no point in holding on to it. As much as I'd love to be able to hold on to every book I've ever owned, I just realistically do not have space for that. So the first one is a actually pretty beloved book, and I just could not get into it. I just didn't understand it. I'm really glad that I actually got this one from my library, so I didn't waste any of my actual money on purchasing this one, and I gave it 1 star because I couldn't even finish it. I really was trying, and it wasn't even that long. That is Autumn by Ali Smith. It's part of the seasonal quartet, which I just love the design of the books, but I don't know, something about it just made me think, read the first one first online and see if you want to invest in the whole series. Like, don't buy the whole thing all at once in case you hate it, which I'm really great because I can't even tell you what this book was even about, which is going to probably be a common theme among a lot of these books that I'm talking about. Like, I couldn't even explain to you right after I read them what they're about, so there's no way I'm going to be able to explain them fully to you now after more time has passed. But I just did not get this book. I feel like maybe I wasn't smart enough or something. I don't know, because some people absolutely love this book, and I just could not get into it at all. It takes place in the 80s and like in the UK. And other than that, I couldn't tell you anything else. It's just something that I did not enjoy. I think I got like 1/3 of the way into it, and I just was over it. Then we have a book called How to Read Nonfiction Like a Professor, and the author on that one was Thomas C. Foster. I really did read a lot of nonfiction books last year in comparison to other years, and I really just wanted to be able to get more out of my nonfiction reading, so I thought this would be the perfect book because I'd read How to Read Fiction by this author before, Like a Professor, and I really enjoyed that one, and I felt like I want to go back and read because I feel like there's a lot of points that I can still like refresh myself with, and I just felt like this one was gonna be great, and it was terrible. Like, it was so boring. I got halfway into the book and I had the feeling I should DNF it, but I was like, maybe in the last half I'll find something interesting. But I feel like I took away nothing of value to actually apply to my nonfiction reading in this book, which is terrible considering that's the whole point of this book. And I feel like the main point of the book was the author was trying to get across was to question everything you read, the credibility of it and authenticity, which I don't need a whole 300-page book to tell me that. I can just basically read that in an infographic on Instagram. So yeah, unfortunately I just hated that book. Then we have one that could also be controversial as well, which I feel like is most of these books on this list, unfortunately, and that is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. This one was just a very disappointing book for me. I gave it about 2.5 stars, but it's a book I had been kind of holding on to for a while that I was looking forward to getting to, and I also was looking forward to reading Normal People, which is kind of like scared me to read that book because I'm afraid I'm not gonna like that one either. So I'm kind of like holding off on reading Normal People even though I want to watch the show. And Conversation with Friends, it was just I know some people really loved it, but it's just one of those things where it just wasn't for me and I didn't get it. I just thought I don't know, just like the relationships were just not interesting to me to read it from, I guess. Then we have a book that was not so much terrible, it was just very disappointing because I expected to give this book 5 stars when I was going into it, and that is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I love mystery thriller books, and I love any book that has like some sort of multimedia format to it and something extra. So this one had like extra things you could look up online and different like photos and website things that go along with the book, and I love things like that. And I just think that those parts were executed well, but the actual story itself, we're following, I can't even fully remember what the mystery was now. Some like missing girl or some girl who killed herself. I can't even remember now, but I just remember just not being impressed with the story, and it was very long and I felt like I was getting bored with it and I just wasn't that interested in it. Next we have a book that I am also sad to say is a little bit controversial. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way about this book though, because I know there's other people who commented saying they did not get it either, and that's the Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So I read The Night Circus and I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave that 4 stars. I didn't love it like some people go die hard for that book, but I was definitely looking forward to reading another book from her because I figured, you know, it's her next book, it can only get better. It had been a while since she had written the book, so her next one's probably just gonna be like 5 stars, hit it out of the park. And I could not get into this book for the life of me. I think it's one of the few books I left just like a little sentence review on Goodreads last year, and I had written, I couldn't tell you what I read if my life depended on it. Can someone please explain this book to me, but like I'm a 5-year-old, because I literally did not understand the point of the book. I felt like nothing really happened, and it was a long book, so, and it had so much potential. Like the story was really cool. I felt like her writing style was good too. It was very flowery, but I didn't mind that. It's just the actual story, like, I don't know, I just felt like, am I not knowing how to read anymore because I feel like I'm reading and I'm not comprehending what's actually happening in the story, which that has not happened a lot of times in my life before, so whenever it does, I'm just like, something must be wrong with me. Okay, next we have a book that is in like the mystery thriller category that I also gave 2 stars. It's called Baby Teeth by Zoe, I don't know how to pronounce the first name, Stage. And this book was one of the ones that helped solidify for me that I don't like books written from a kid's perspective that are for an adult audience. It's just something about it just doesn't really work for me, or maybe I just haven't read the right ones yet, but this was definitely one of them, and I just felt like it was just so unbelievable. Basically, it's like an evil kid story, and the kid, like, for some reason, I don't even remember now, hates their mother and wants to kill their mother, but like when they're when they were a toddler or something. So I don't know, just the believability of it to me wasn't that it just wasn't there for me, and as a mystery thriller it just really didn't work for me. Next we have a book that I gave a 3-star rating to, which isn't terrible, but I think it's just, even looking back on it now, I probably was a little bit more generous. It's probably more like 2.5 stars, but this one wasn't terrible itself either. It was just disappointing, I would say, because I really wanted to enjoy this book, and I think when I first started off with it too, I was really like enjoying the first part, but just where it went, it was just kind of ended up being boring to me. And did I even say what book I'm talking about? That book is The Binding by Bridget Collins, and it was such a gorgeous edition of a book. Like, it was so pretty, but unfortunately I did not hold on to it. It now has a new owner because I just couldn't get into it. And I think the thing that also made it disappointing was the premise sounded so interesting. Like, we're following this guy who becomes a bookbinder, and people can have their memories bound into books, and once that happens, like, that memory won't be in their minds anymore, like they can completely forget about it. So one day he finds a book that has his name on it. That sounded so interesting. Like, how could you do wrong with that storyline? And just for me, I just did not like this book at all. I know I'm definitely in the minority on my opinion with this, but because it has a pretty good rating on Goodreads. I think it's like almost 4 stars, so I'm definitely the minority on this one. Although I think it was Elias who has a booktube channel as well, who also had similar feelings, where I know he included this in his worst books of 2020 list, and I'm just glad I'm not the only one who felt bad feelings towards this book. Next we have a book that I just did not like. I gave 2 stars, but even now looking back I probably could have given it 1, and it was also disappointing because the cover on this one was so beautiful and the premise sounded like something exactly like what I would like to read, and it sounded like so interesting, and it was a translated book, I believe, too. and that's That Hair by Jamelia Pereira de Almeida, translated by Eric M.B. Becker. And I think what was also made it even more disappointing was the fact that I had received an ARC of this book for review. I had requested it and I just did not like it. It's kind of told in a stream of consciousness way, and I'm just learning that that is not a style of book that I really enjoy reading. I thought I would really relate to this book because it's I can't remember if it was like fully nonfiction or if it kind of just had some of the author's own experiences kind of weaved into the story. But it wasn't technically, I don't think, like an autobiography or anything, but the main character is all about the story of her curly hair. So I just thought like there was going to be so much that I would be able to connect to and relate to in this book, and that ended up not being the case. It was kind of similar to The Star of the Sea, where I would read a couple of pages and I would be like, what did I even just read? Like, what even just happened? I couldn't tell you what I just read. And that's like a terrible feeling when you're reading. So for that reason, this book definitely deserves to be on this list. Next, we have a book in translation, and that was The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I really wanted to like this book and I ended up giving it 2 stars, I believe. This book made my list because I just felt like I didn't enjoy my time reading it, and it was just very disappointing. I think it had an interesting premise. It just didn't really do anything for me. So in the execution, we're following Young Hee and her husband, and she decides that she is going to pretty much like become a vegetarian as a way of kind of taking control of her life, which on its own, that sounds very interesting of a storyline to read from, but we end up not even following her. We're following the people around her and kind of how it affects them, and it's just like, I don't know, very weird, and I don't know, just not a book for me, not a style that I like. I don't mind books that are weird, but this one just kind of, I don't know, just didn't really do anything for me. And then lastly, we have a book that I think also is going to be controversial because I know a lot of people enjoyed it, and I don't think this book was bad. It just wasn't what I expected, and I just wanted something different, a little bit more from it. And that is The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I ended up giving this one 2 stars, and this one was on here because it's a really terrible book. It was just more because it was like disappointing to me because I really wanted to give it 5 stars. It's sounds like a really interesting storyline with these black mermaids who were the descendants of African slave women who were tossed overboard on their journey across the Atlantic, and it just sounded like it'd be so cool. And the main person that we're following has this ability where they like hold the trauma and the memories for all of the people, and that's their job. Like they're the historian, and like it sounds all very interesting, but just something about it, I just wanted something more. I just wanted more storyline, where I feel like this book was already very short, but I feel like it could have even been shorter and just been a short story, or it could have been longer and had a bit more action and plot somehow added into it. But that's just my opinion. I know some people really love this book, and nothing against anybody who did really enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. So those are all the books I read last year. Well, the top ones I did not like as much. Like I said, there's probably at least another 10 that I could have included on here, but I don't exactly love saying bad things about books, talking negatively about books. That's just not something that I like to do on this channel. I'd like to be positive and, you know, be a just a positive presence here on BookTube, and I don't like talking negatively about books, but sometimes you have to, because not every book is good, unfortunately, and I will always be honest with you guys if I liked a book or not. Like at the end of the day, I will always say if I did not like a book. So those were all of the books that I wanted to talk to you guys about in this video. Let me know if you read any of these and you actually loved them. I'd be interested to know, like, your perspective on what you did like about a book. Maybe that did something for you but nothing for me. Also, like, what if there's any other books that you guys read last year that you decided that you didn't like and were part of your worst books for last year. Let me know. We can talk about it in the comments below. But that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!